Hi there, and welcome to Lost in Literature. I'll be taking up plot today. That's a very important element in story writing because that is how a story assumes its shape. All right? Uh, so I'll take up this simple plot diagram here, which I found, fortunately on the net, of course, and you'll be able to understand how a story is structured when you look at this. See, to begin with, you have the exposition at the left bottom. And this is a very familiar story, of the three little pigs who built this house, and the wolf came along, and with a huff and a puff, he blew the house down. I mean, how often um, we hear the little ones, join, the wolf saying, huff and puff, and I'll blow your house down. So, in the exposition, you have the setting, the names of the characters, and generally the situation. All right? It gives you the basic details of the story. And this is followed by rising action. And that is when the story builds up. All right? And in this little pig story, you have the first pig whose house is made of straw and that's blown down. And then the second pig becomes slightly wiser, and he builds this house with wood, and that's also blown down by this smart wolf. And then the third pig is the wisest of all. He builds a house with bricks, and then he knows the wolf is going to come. He puts this huge pot, with water in the fireplace to boil. And of course, the wolf comes along, and then he doesn't open the door when the wolf says, I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. Instead, he just gets this water boiling, and the wolf goes up to the chimney and falls through the hole right into the pot, and this third little pig has a good dinner. So, this is where you have all these 5 points that we have to consider in a plot. So, to begin with, it's the exposition where you have the basic details of the story. And then you have rising action where, the situation builds up and there is more tension. And then, of course, you reach this point right at the pinnacle, right at the top of this triangle, and that is the climax of the story. All right? And here you have the climax with the third pig refusing to open the door, and the wolf promptly goes up to the rooftop. All right? And then you have the falling action, literally the falling action in the story. The wolf literally falls into the pot. And finally, you have the resolution. And resolution is when the problem which was there in the beginning of the story is resolved. And then, the reader is quite satisfied. Yes, the evil wolf has died, and that's a good thing. All right. Now we'll go on to Bonku Babu, and let's look at the plot there. Again, it follows a very classic, kind of a pattern. You have the exposition or the foundational details of the story. Now, this part includes, like I told you, setting, conflict, and also it tells us something about the characters. And in this case, we meet Bonku Babu, and he's the main character in the story. And he lives in a village called Kankurgachi. Now, we learn more about him. He's a geography teacher and also a Bengali teacher. And being a geography teacher, he knows he has a broader sense of the world, unlike the rest of the narrow minded people in Kankarkachi. He knows all about the world. And then, the conflict is suggested here. It's a tiny seed here. Okay, the children in the school, they make fun of him, they taunt him, they play pranks on him, they draw cartoons of him. And uh, Bonku Babu is not able to deal with this because he's a meek man and his salary matters. And he believes that the villagers, at least the parents of these children, are quite powerful, and he doesn't want to do anything about it. He tolerates it. But even then, we know that he's a good teacher because he calls many of these children home and he teaches them, the good ones, gives them snacks, tells them all about the wonders of the world. And we realize that he's not only a good teacher, he's also a pretty knowledgeable and broad minded person. So all this is, taken up in the exposition part. And now we are into the story. And then there is this rising action. And that is where there is a build up, all right, of the situation. And then there is tension. This tension also starts heightening. And then you have more conflict. And of course, the inability of a character who cannot do anything. Okay? And how does this work in Bonku Babu's friend? Well, now the writer, that is Satyajit Ray, he takes up the social side of Bonku Babu. Now you have him going to this meeting in Sripati Majumdar's house. This gentleman has a regular meeting or adda, as it's called, every weekend, and people turn up there. And once again, we realize that this poor fellow is again, the butt of jokes there. People laugh at him, people poke fun at him, they play pranks on him to the extent of hurting him, as when the ghost jumps on him, the so called ghost from the tree, and hurts him. So, again, he's not able to do anything about it because he's a meek man. And not only that, he knows that Sripati Majumdar and the rest of the villagers, they are pretty powerful. So he can't do anything. Poor thing. He just tolerates everything. And the saddest part is, see, okay, he's pranked upon, but then he's also injured. He's slighted, discounted, discredited. All right, nobody gives him credit when he sees that strange object in the sky, and he is completely, insulted. And they even have a nickname for him, which is Bunkam. So there you are. Nobody treats him with respect. And there is this build-up of tension. And soon they start talking about space. And when Bonku Babu talks about the possibility of an alien visit, they mock at him. They start, saying all kinds of mean things. And now there's truly tension because Bonku feels obliged to rise up and leave the meeting altogether because he's really feeling very much humiliated. And then, of course, he starts walking home. And that is when we have the climax. Now, what happens in the climax? First of all, the climax is a high point, and the story reaches that point, and then a suitable atmosphere is created by the writer because now a kind of incident takes place that is unusual. Now, this is very important in a story because we don't want day to day stuff. A story has to have something different. So, a kind of different situation arises, and the readers are primed for the climax. Let's see how this happens in Bonku Babu. See, first of all, Satyajit Ray tells us what kind of a night it is, and also what these villagers had, yelled out to poor Bonku Babu when he left Shripati Majumdar's house. They told him, hey, be careful, it's a moonless night. And it is Saturday on top of that, and ghosts and aliens just might turn up. But Bonku's not scared. He's quite a practical, knowledgeable person. He doesn't believe in ghosts, so he takes a shortcut home. And then, so we are primed for this meeting. Already, it's there in our mind. Will an alien really turn up? And we are taken to that bamboo grove near the pond where the alien actually turns up. And we are also given an idea of how the alien looks. He looks as odd as possible. He looks different naturally. He has got holes for eyes and for ears and for mouth, etc. And no, his ears are sticking out. I'm sorry. And then this guy, he is different, we are told, and yet he is able to hold his own. There's so much self assurance and confidence about him. He communicates with Bonku, and the reader curiosity is aroused. What's going to happen now? Will this alien be dangerous? Is it going to hurt Bonku? What's going to transpire? But then the alien treats Bonku absolutely normally. So normally that Bonku's self confidence is restored. All right? And, and um, Ang, the alien, also tells him that he must stand up and fight against injustice. He must, you know, um, go against it, stand up against the villagers and do what's right. He owes it to himself. And then Ang also shows him all those amazing sights in the world of the northern lights, the piranhas, and all these amazing things in the world. So, when nature has so many amazing things, is it a wonder at all that the alien turns up on Earth? Not at all. So the story becomes so very credible. And now we have reached the high point of the story. Definitely, the next part is the falling action. They call it the denouement or the falling action. And now what's happening? Slowly, the dramatic tension gives way, eases, and the situation slowly becomes unknotted, unraveled, and it becomes normal. All right? And everything falls into place. So, what happens in this story? Ang treats Bonku very normally, and so Bonku becomes very confident, and he also tells him to stand up for himself and points out to Bonku that he should not be meek. All right? And also shows him some amazing places in the world. So, all these things are part of the climax and also the falling action. All right? Because slowly after the climax, now things are getting back to normal. And Then, of course, the final part of the plot structure is the resolution, the solution. Because as readers, we want it, and the conflict is resolved, and the readers feel absolutely satisfied now because injustice has been taken care of. Because all our sympathies from the beginning are with Bonku Babu. And another thing, if you notice, Bonku feels very special, very unique, because he was the only one who had the chance to meet um, Ang, right? This alien. And that gives him his self confidence. And now, if you notice, he walked and talked differently. Remember how he dealt with people at the next meeting? He put them in their place. He settled scores with them. He gave them tight for their behavior. He laughed at them in derision and walked out of the meeting. He said that he would never again come to this meeting. Right? And now we see this transformation in Bonku. And this transformation is very, very important in a story. Bonku is no longer what he was in the beginning of the story. So, there you are. Let me repeat the different points in the structure. First, you have the exposition, and then you have the rising action, and you reach the climax, and from there the fall starts, the falling action, and finally there is resolution. All the strands of the story or the situation, everything has been dealt with beautifully by the writer. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of this, and I hope it made sense to you, and I hope you liked it. And if you liked it, please do hit a like. I seem to have very few viewers. I really don't know how to get viewers. So, if any of you have friends, any of you ninth graders, please share the link with them, and I would love to have them. And also subscribe to my channel, Lost in Literature. All right, bye then, and see you again.